Dan Mullen joins us, former Florida Gators and Mississippi State head coach, now broadcaster. Joins us on OutKick 360. Talk a little ball here with Coach Mullen. First off, thank you for the time. Hope things are well. The last time you and I and Chad were in person was at the Opryland Hotel at a coaches convention in Nashville. It's been a while.
You were the coach of Mississippi State at the time, in fact.
Yeah, and at the time, Dan, we were talking in person about the Rams opening, about you getting to the NFL, and a couple of weeks ago, we're like, where is Mullen's name in all of these coaching searches? Are you enjoying the television aspect so much that, NIL and everything else is just not worth it?
I really am. I think, you never say never with going back to coaching and, possibly the NFL and at that level. But I've really enjoyed the TV side of things. Really enjoyed the lifestyle it brings. You're still involved in the game. And you know what? It was new. It was exciting for me this year. I had a great time. And it's something I want to try to continue to improve on. I had a lot of great experiences with the opportunity to be in studio, to call some games, to be at the championship game and some shows on set. And it was a lot of fun. And it was just a whole different world and something that was a lot of fun to try. And but we'll see what the future holds. You never know what it'll hold in the end.
Now, you did a really good job on television this season also. You know a lot of people obviously in coaching, and some that are out of it, some that are still in it. Do you sense a lot of fatigue with the current state of college coaching, with NIL and transfer portal and everything, with coaches currently in the profession? Or is it not as big of a driving force away from it that maybe we in the media might think?
I think there's some. I think fatigue's not maybe not the exact thing. I do think it does wear you out, wear you down. I'm talking to some of the coaches that I know and that are out there. They just, the uncertainty of it. I don't know. They love exactly where the game's at. And you look at what a lot of people, the great rewards of coaching were helping young people develop. And you have this young guy you go recruit out of high school, and he comes to your school, and you get a degree and you develop them, and they go from not maybe a highly rated recruit, then they leave when they get a degree, they want to get a great job, start a business, start a career, become a doctor, become lawyers, whatever it is they're going to do, go into the NFL and have the opportunity to play pro. And I think a lot of that has changed. I think you could see the change coming. I think one of the things the coaches are frustrated about that I've talked to, and even I know, is you saw the change coming a couple of years ago, and the NCAA and a lot of people just kind of wanted to bury their head in the sand about it and said, we really don't want to listen to what the coaches have to say about it. We want all the players need their rights and this. And I think they missed the boat on the coaches were on the player side. I don't know if you'd ever talk to coaches and think, hey, we want to give the players as much as they can get. What's the best way to either give them money, to get them paid, to find different ways to give them more? And the original one, the NCAA was, I remember you go back a couple of years ago, they can have bagels. I'm like, okay, they can have a bagel after workout. We're like, well, okay, that's a step, but not really where we want to go. And so I think a lot of the frustration brewed from that, and that it's changing a lot of things, and it's changing a lot of things that guys loved about coaching and developing players into more of this kind of a free agent system. But as always, coaches have kind of always had to adapt to the roles that are given them, and I think that's what they're starting to do now.
So, Coach, if we saw this on the horizon before it actually happened, the coaches behind the scenes definitely did, as you're mentioning. What is on the horizon now? Where are we headed? That's inevitable. Are we headed towards a union? Are we headed towards contracts? Like, what's the next phase of this that no one's talking about yet?
Well, I think the issue is everybody wants to talk about the problems, but no one has the solution. So I think a couple of years ago when it came up, with the coaches with NIL, I remember being in a meeting with the NCAA and saying, hey, it's 100% going to be about recruiting. And they're like, no, have nothing to do with recruiting. It's only really going to be about players that, have value to their name and can sign contracts. And you just sit there and shake your head like, you're kidding me. The whole thing's recruiting based,
Yeah.
The coaches are going to look for a way to utilize this. So I think that the issue is, and I'm not an attorney on this one, is finding the legal answers to go and fix the problem, and so you can sit there and say, let the players unionize, we're going to contract and put you under contract. It still brings no balance if there's still name, image, and likeness beyond that. Because you sit there and say, okay, here's your salary cap for players or what's set. Then you just have guys, boosters say, well, we're going to get you another contract out there with endorsing a product. So I don't know. The one solution may be you go to unionize the players. There's a salary cap that's agreed upon. Within that, to give the universities a little bit more control, they own the players' name, image, and likeness rights under that contract, so that they can go back and sell the endorsements to go pay for these contracts and raise money. But then all of a sudden, the endorsement money goes back to then the schools. And they don't have the ability to go create endorsements for themselves beyond that. That could bring a balance. I don't know the legality of that, or who you could get to agree to that. Because I think you see when you look at the NFL, there's a great salary cap, but players go and negotiate their own contracts beyond that for their endorsements. But that's big money, and you know what? NFL teams aren't going to sit there and they legally can't find ways to pay you more, where boosters probably still could. The NFL teams don't have boosters to go kind of beat the salary cap to get you to play for a team.
Your successor at Mississippi State was Mike Leach. We obviously lost him recently. What was he like to deal with, whether it be at SEC coaches meetings or any other time you were around him? There's all these great stories about Mike Leach, the person, but what was your interaction with him like, especially as someone who took over a job after you left it?
Yeah, I think, well, there was a gap in between he and I, but in talking with Mike in SEC meetings and getting there was kind of interesting. I think his first year was, I was only in there, I think, 2 years with him in SEC meetings, and his first year was kind of adapting to the league, and it was Zoom meetings and nothing in person. So his personality doesn't come out sometimes when it's just the Zoom meeting. It was actually almost me laughing because it's a Zoom meeting. He's sitting at a desk. I'm like, hey, that was my desk. Like I'm almost want to text him. Hey, I used to sit at that desk. But kind of goofy things that way. And but I always thought he was great. I think after he got a little adapted to the league and what it was all about, I think he's extremely intelligent, extremely insightful when it came to the game, and looked at what was good for the game. He had his own unique way of doing things. I think one of the things he brought to the table was that there's not just one way to do something. You'd be successful a lot of different ways. He had his way, he believed in it, but he was always a thinker and trying to learn other people's ways and thoughts and ideas. Not that he was going to maybe incorporate it into what he was doing, but just to go learn it. And that way, I had a great time. We got to go back. I was in Starkville last summer. We were there visiting friends. We're out at a dinner, and one of the guys that was a booster there said, "Hey, I'm having some people over, Coach. Why don't you stop by?" And Mike said, if you're going to come by, he'll stop by. So we've got to go hang out for a little bit at this one guy's house. And everybody's in the backyard. Rocky Felker, another Mississippi State head coach, came by. It was kind of a great time just telling stories. Mike's such a great storyteller, such a great guy to be around, and a fun guy. And he can, he can talk about it. Loves talking about football, but he really can talk about any subject. And, and I think it's great when you have the coaches around that were around other people, because we're all sharing stories about football and how we did things and what we did and how they're a little bit different. I don't think I've ever had a bad night hanging out with Mike.
Dan Mullen, our guest on OutKick 360. Your relationship with Dak Prescott is well documented. Even going back through the year he was franchise tagged, I believe, even after Mississippi State in his early career with Dallas, Coach, the story was you picked up the phone, you called him whenever he dislocated his ankle, I believe it was, and he was out for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And that was rough. He gets hurt early on this past season and comes back. Dallas is one of the top teams in the league, but there's still just something missing there. What needs to happen for Prescott to reach the full potential in the NFL?
I think the big one, and unfortunately I got to go out to see one of the games this year. My son and I went out to go see him play in this game. He got hurt. It was right at the beginning of the season, and hurt his thumb. And I knew it. That was a tough one because it was on his throwing hand. So I don't know. With something like that, he wants to get back. He wants to get on the field and play. He's such a competitor. And that's one of those deals in gripping a football. I don't know for sure. I haven't asked him or talked to him about it. I just always tell him, hey, make sure you get yourself healthy, get back. And I know you're going to get yourself back, but I don't know if he was ever really 100% again the whole season with something like that. It's just something that kind of nags and it's still there for him throughout the year. One of the things I think, and he's such a great leader and wants to, and he makes everybody else around him better. I think, when you look at it though, the NFL is a tough league and the NFL is set for balance. And and there's windows. And I think, a lot of times you look I'm not in the locker room. I'm not there every day with them and everything going on. And I think they really, at times, could use another weapon maybe on the outside for him. I always looked at football this way. Here's a great way to look at teams. And you got to figure it out. And especially if you want to win a championship, how are you going to score touchdowns? Right? I mean, you can have great players, but who can score touchdowns on your team? You go look at the Super Bowl coming up here this weekend. You can name a bunch of guys on each team that can score a touchdown. And I don't mean from the 2-yard line. It's because it's awful hard to go drive the ball. And the tighter you get to the goal line, the harder it is to score. And any great offensive team that I've been on has guys that can score touchdowns. So I was looking at the Cowboys, and you get to watch them, and I watch Dak, and all of a sudden in the NFL, you get a guy hurt, like Tony Pollard gets banged up. He's a guy that can score touchdowns from them from further away. And in the NFL, you don't have a lot of those guys. You look at great college teams, they have guys that can score touchdowns, and not because it's hard to go on 12-play drives up and down the field against great teams. So at some point, you're going to need that, and I think it'll be interesting to see. In the NFL, a lot of times, that people always ask me, what about this team, that team? Like, all right, we'll start with, we'd always start our meetings every year. Let's build our offense. What do we want to be? Run, throw, tempo, no tempo, all those things. Let's put up on the board who can score touchdowns for us. And then we'll build it off of those guys because we need to make sure they get the ball in the hands to see if they can get in the end zone.
Yeah, and Chad, in Philly's case, it seems like their depth, they've got guys on their depth chart that can do that. You see that in college, but not NFL.
You see that everybody, and you can defensive coaches can take guys out of games. If you have one guy that can score, for the most part, you can kind of try to take that one guy out of the game. That might not always happen, but you're going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to eliminate this guy from a game. Now, if you don't have anybody else that can score, I look at both these teams. You're going to put AJ Brown's over there. He can score a touchdown. Then Devontae Smith can score for the Eagles. And then the tight end, Goddard, he can score. And Jalen Hurts can score. You go to the Chiefs, and you better stop Kelsey. And if you stop Kelsey, though, all of a sudden Mahomes, if he's healthy, can run around. But even if he's not, they do. Andy Reid does such a good job of having weapons on the field. You look at their team, and it's like, they might not be a pure X receiver or an H receiver, but they have these weapons, and he puts all of them in different positions. And I had Kadarius Toney play for me that's playing for the Chiefs. You put the ball in his hands, and he can score a touchdown. And and so I think Andy does such a good job, as good as maybe anybody in football, or probably the best in football, of putting those guys in positions to score. So I'm excited. I have 7 guys that played for me playing in the Super Bowl, so it's going to be pretty fun.
That's really cool. But going by your plan, though, about, good coach can say, if you got one guy who can score, you can take that away. The Eagles, they have great depth, obviously. They don't really have a weakness in any spot, offense or defense. But if you're going to try to implement that plan, do you try to do it against the Chiefs, given Kelsey, and then a drop-off to everyone else on that roster outside of Mahomes? Or is that still difficult because of what you said about Andy Reid and how he's going to get other guys the ball?
I still think the starting point is trying to take Kelsey away. The hardest thing that when you play the Chiefs that Andy does is it's like finding Waldo. Like, where's Waldo? Kelsey, he's going to play every different position on the field. And it gets a little harder schematically because, all right, he's in the backfield. Oh, he's playing X receiver. Now he's in the slot. Now he's at tight end, and they move him around. And the structure of your defense sometimes can get out of whack. Okay, hey, we're going to double this guy, but now he's in the tight end position, and we just left their number one receiver all by himself out there. So Now the benefit, the Eagles are going to have is sit there and say, okay, well, we're going to use our safeties and linebackers. We're going to have a plan for Kelsey. And then we're going to go take our corners, big play Slay, and we're going to go now. He's going to go eliminate another receiver. And we're going to say he can eliminate a receiver. We're going to combo Kelsey on the inside and then let the next guy try to beat us. And, that's kind of how the best way to do it. If you better have some talent and depth to eliminate players.
How will you watch the game, given that you have 7 former players playing in this game? What is the Dan Mullen plan to watch the Super Bowl?
I root for my guys. So, you know what? It's always kind of tricky. So, right when the Chiefs have the ball, I'll root for Kadarius Toney. But, I got a bunch of guys on the Eagles defense. So I want to see Fletcher Cox go out there and make a bunch of plays and slay and go out there and CJ Gardner-Johnson, the defense of the Eagles. I got a couple guys over there. Then you go in and the Chiefs run on the field. I'm rooting probably a lot more for defense, which is weird as an offensive guy. Because then, they got Chris Jones and Willie Gay out there and Tommy Townsend's punting for the Chiefs. So, and then I'll scour the guys because I think I have 3 more guys that are in practice squads on the team. So I'll be looking at the sidelines just to see them on the sidelines for the guys. So you just kind of get guys. And then obviously, I think Brian, you look at one of the Eagles, the huge resurgence, what Jalen Hurts has done was Brian Johnson, who played for me, was my offensive coordinator, is the quarterback coach now for the Eagles. And you look at what he's been able to do in helping, develop Jalen Hurts and implement the things, So I'll be watching and I'll laugh and he'll call me and I'll just say, hey, that was a staple in our offense. He goes, he'll be like, yep, we put that in, we put this in, and some of the things help Jalen Hurts out a lot. So always look for him on the sideline. So it'll be the nice thing is at the end of the game, there's going to be people I'm going to be really happy.
Dan Mullen has been our guest, and who knows, maybe future head coach by the time you join us again. I hope not. I hope it's sooner rather than later. I hope you're coaching again.
I hope I keep coming on this broadcasting deal though. This top analyst for games or whatever it is.
Yeah, man.
I enjoy it. It's like you guys do. You guys are out here. You enjoy it. You enjoy talking sports without some of the craziness. You're involved in it. You're in the game. You're around it all the time. Maybe without some of the drama. I am coaching a little bit of helping the high school team out here locally. So I get a little fix getting out there coaching up some of the high schoolers.
So you're doing just enough, right, to where you don't miss it so much that you're jumping right back in.
Well, as my wife says, my son's out there playing now, and I would have never got to see him play, so I'm out there, and she's like, you really need to be on the sidelines because I'm pacing around. Now that you're kind of out of it, coaches watching their kids are like a special animal. They need a glass box for us in the end zone of games, just because we're a music of pacing and we know what's going on, and you're you don't want to be a distraction, but you're yelling out, hey, they're one high, throw this, come this. I'm chewing on my water bottle, trying not to say stuff. Just
do you feel like, Coach,
it's a lot of fun.
Do you feel like you're in a spot now, though, where you can be pretty picky in terms of opportunity when coaching, whenever you're ready to coach again, if it's the time that you can kind of sit back and wait on the right opportunity?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because the right opportunity might not. If I'm ready, the right opportunity might not be there. I think timing's a lot of things that are out there, and I don't know what the right opportunity would be. There's so many great opportunities, and a lot of coaching, and it's what you make of it. I thought a lot of people were scratching their head when I went to Starkville, and I stayed there for a long time, and I loved being the head coach of Mississippi State. I love the community. I love the Mississippi State fan base and everybody there and everything about it. And it just was the place I wanted to be. There were opportunities a lot when I was there, and I just never felt ready to take one. And when the Florida opportunity came around, I thought, I thought I'd done an awful lot for Mississippi State. And I was ready for a different challenge. And I thought, but they're maybe ready for somebody new at this point, and you could stay there forever. You could do this. But you know what? I thought in college football, everybody, the today's world, everybody gets a little bit bored of you, right? I had somebody tell me once, you get your first year, you get a grace period coaching, maybe 2 years. Then you kind of annoy 10% of the fan base every year after that. So, I mean, I was at Mississippi State for 9 years. About 80% of them are about fed up with me at that point. Uh, the But you get opportunities to go do that and go move on. So we'll see. I think a lot of it, I'm enjoying time with my family. I do. I really enjoy the TV side of things, and I want to see where that takes me. And all of a sudden, like anything, I guess as a coach, I'm a competitor. And, in coaching, you want to go out there every week. You want to be the best. And I want to try to be the best I can be on the broadcasting side now, and see if I can continue to improve. I'm excited this offseason to get to spend with some, being on ESPN, to spend some time with people on ESPN and say, take me through what I did well, take me through what I did poorly. How am I getting better? If I'm going to be, what am I going to be doing, and how do I do those things better to perform at a higher level? And it's just kind of how I was raised and brought up, and that's what I'm going to look at doing this spring.
Follow him on social at Coach Dan Mullen. Thanks so much for the visit. Always great, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, anytime. Sounds great to be with you guys. Have a great time. Enjoy the Super Bowl this week. It's the saddest thing about the Super Bowl
I know.
is when the game ends, it's like, oh my goodness, there's no more football.
Yeah, it's a long winter.
The countdown is on.
It's a long way till we get to watch some football, guys. Just like, it's sad. At least we have like the USFL and the XFL and some of that stuff coming up. And I remember growing up when I was young, I loved the original USFL. I thought I kind of got into it, and I got to try to find a way to get into some of these spring leagues a little bit.
Oh, and then here comes the debate about the quarterbacks too in the draft. So, I mean, that's already started.
We'll have NFL draft also, which will be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll get into that one and break that down. So,
hey, appreciate you, man. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds great. Have a great day.
All right, you too. There's Dan Mullen. Always enjoyed our conversations with him.
Yeah.
And this one no different. Very cool dude. And I do hope he's back into coaching soon.
Yeah, I remember that conversation you referenced at Opryland Hotel here in Nashville at the coaches convention, and talking to him then, and you could hear his interest in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
When he was talking about that as Mississippi State's head coach, you can hear him talk about the Super Bowl there, and it's not difficult to bridge the gap there and say, this guy with a lot of interest in the NFL. I don't know where his next coaching opportunity is going to come, but it may be an NFL opportunity.